All right. So, Chris, you're going to
Uh-huh.
share first this evening.
Okay. This is a story called it's a short very very short story. It's called Methuselah. Old Ezekiel was drunk. He couldn't remember when he had ever in his life been more drunk. To be honest, at this point there wasn't much he could remember. Period. It was hard enough just trying to recall why he had started this project in the first place. He lifted his head off his folded arms and blearily regarded the giant half empty bottle of wine that stood on the ancient wooden table in front of him. It was the biggest bottle of wine he had ever seen. The bottle was almost as big as the table. That must hold 6 liters easily, he thought, maybe 7. Where in the world Jeremiah had found a bottle of wine so big on such short notice was a mystery to Ezekiel. This bottle big enough, Zeke? Jeremiah had asked him when he brought it over yesterday afternoon on his way home from the sawmill. He stopped by twice a week, on Tuesdays and Fridays, to see if old Ezekiel needed anything from the store or a hand around the house. It wasn't that Ezekiel couldn't have run his own errands. It wasn't that he couldn't have gone to the store or the laundry or the carryout on his own. That wasn't it at all. He didn't really need Jeremiah at all in the helpless sense of the word. Even at his age, he was still as healthy as he had ever been, still had never broken a bone, still dressed himself and cooked all his own meals. It was just that, well, old Ezekiel was losing his will to continue. Every day, his soul felt thinner and more stretched out. He was tired of living, or rather, he was tired of outliving. That was something he knew Jeremiah and the others would never understand. They all still had their wives, their children, their nephews, and nieces, and aunts and uncles. The walls of Ezekiel's tiny house were covered with portraits of relatives, descendants, friends, past and present. Old Ezekiel sat at his table and stared around the room at all the faces, many of whom he no longer recognized. Was that one over there a great great grandson or a nephew? Was the one opposite him a grandniece or a cousin? It was impossible to tell after this long of a time, although the sons and daughters he remembered best. Ezekiel's gaze staggered out the window unsteadily in the direction of the town. Was it a town, or was it simply an extension of his own backyard? Who could tell any more? He thought wearily to himself. The whole town was thriving with relations, with in laws and second cousins twice and thrice removed. They knew nothing of the loss, nothing of the sadness that accompanied singularity. How could they? No one had ever been like old Ezekiel. He would be the last of a family, the last of a patriarchy that had spanned nearly 90 decades. His brown hand ran smoothly across the ancient wooden table, the same table he had made from the trees of a forest that no longer existed, a forest that he had planted in his youth and that had been cut down out of necessity by his descendants for shelter and for trade. How many times had Ezekiel patiently repaired this table? How many times more? Old Ezekiel was not simply the last of a great line, the final outcome of anonymous ancestors. No, old Ezekiel had fathered the line and then had watched it wither and fade over almost 9 centuries. The facts were irrefutable. His meticulously printed birth certificate was preserved at the town hall for all to see, as well as the birth and death records of every single one of his descendants and relatives. Old Ezekiel was a living legend, an anomaly of nature that the children stared at and the other old men of the town regarded with a mixture of awe and sympathy. Obadiah, the last of Ezekiel's great 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 grandnephews, the last, in fact, of any of Ezekiel's living relations, had just died the month before of a violent brain hemorrhage that occurred as he was sitting down to read the final chapter of a book he had been steadily trying to finish for the past 4.5 years. When Jeremiah stopped by and told old Ezekiel what had happened, Ezekiel just looked at him and said, "Hmm, that's so?" He had known the day would come, like all the rest, and he was so used to that kind of news that he at first thought it would make no impression on him at all. He was so used to saying goodbye that he couldn't imagine feeling anything about it anymore. But as the days progressed and the realization that he was the very last survivor of his own line gradually set in, old Ezekiel began to feel more and more the weight of gravity, that mysterious force of nature that is not trying to pull us merely to the earth, but rather 6 feet under it. So last Tuesday, old Ezekiel had asked Jeremiah to bring him the biggest bottle of wine he could find to help him sleep. Jeremiah had showed up 3 days later with the enormous bottle, set it on the table, and left without accepting any money for the favor. Old Ezekiel had opened the bottle later that evening and begun the despairing and disconsolate duty of emptying the bottle. He had kept at it all night, only stopping to rest his eyes or occasionally stretch, not even breaking for a meal. He had hoped that in drinking this entire bottle of wine, this giant bottle of wine, this Methuselah, as Jeremiah had called it, he would unlock the door to the world of the rested, where everyone lives forever without the fear or the acceptance of the word goodbye. He had hoped that this bottle of wine would put him to sleep, would help him drift into an eternally happy stupor from which he would never again awake in the seedless, fruitless world. The tree must be felled, he told himself, when all the branches have died. Yet now, as a golden evening sky became visible through the flimsy veil covering the window near the table at which he sat, although he was tired beyond belief, and although he could think of nothing but his mattress and the wonderful, relaxed feeling he would have when he finally lay down upon it, old Ezekiel realized that he would wake up tomorrow just as he had for the past 900 years and continue his life, continue with this soul stretching that made his skin feel like a suit that he had outgrown in his youth. He would outlive everyone and everything, would outlive this wooden table which he had made with his own hands, even outlive the sun and the stars. He accepted this without emotion and without fear. He resigned himself to his fate in much the same way that a hardened criminal accepts his sentence. He gave the nearly empty bottle of wine a final look, and then, without finishing it, he stood up and began preparing something to eat. That's it for that one.
Interesting. How did that come about? That story.
That story came about because the guy I was telling you about that I was trying to get to come tonight, who couldn't make it tonight, that lives in Pennsylvania. When I lived in Baltimore, I think, yeah, I lived in Baltimore and he lived in Virginia with his wife. I used to take the train out to their place on the weekends sometimes. And this one weekend, they had to go somewhere. And but I would just I'd come out a lot and just stay the weekend or whatever. We'd hang out. We knew each other for years before that. So when he left, I said, "Oh, I'll borrow your typewriter or something. I don't even know if it was a computer and I'll write a story." And he said, "How about you write a story? I'm going to open the dictionary and flip the whatever word I find, you write a story about." I said, "Okay." So he opened the dictionary and pointed to a word, and the first word was Methuselah, which is a term for a giant bottle of wine, not just the biblical character Methuselah, who lived to be like
Right.
982 years old or 960 years old or whatever, but it also means a giant bottle of wine, which I didn't know. So he left. They were gone for a few hours, and I thought, okay, I'm going to write a story about Methuselah. And that's the story I came up with.
I love
And
it.
I honestly have not changed it very much. I've changed a few words here and there. I keep thinking I'm gonna like edit it or something because there are a few things I think that could be. There's a couple of discrepancies in there, but I think I don't know. I thought it was kind of an interesting story, just as like an exercise to write a story based on a word someone gave me out of the dictionary.
I love that. I love that. That's really
So
cool.
that's that story.
That's impressive that all of that comes out of that one word.
Yeah, just one word.
Weaving
It's
this whole,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
tale.
yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you for sharing that.
So have you published your books and your stuff?
I've
Can we
only done
find them somewhere?
I've I've done some self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
I self-published a collection of children's detective stories called The Calculator Kid. You can look that up online. Is my name showing on my my first and last name? If you look up my first and last name and put in The Calculator Kid, I'm sure you'll find it. They're kind of funny little stories, but they're not like this. And I think I might have one other. I wrote a story called The Nose, which is I don't know if either of you are familiar with the. I was raised in a very conservative, evangelical Christian family, which I write a lot about having grown up in that environment. But in the Bible, there's a book called Job. I don't know if either of you are familiar with that. It's about a guy that is basically suffers pointlessly. And I tried to write. I wrote like kind of a novel based on that, like a modern retelling of that story. But I don't think it's very good. But I'd like to go back and revisit that actually. But I put it on the my self-publishing website years ago.
Did you
But I
say?
think those are the only two that are out there.
Oh, sorry. Did you say a
What's that?
novel? Did you say you wrote a novel based on that?
It's a novella
Okay.
called The Nose. Yeah. And then Joe and I are working on Joe and I are working on. He's got his thing, and I'm working on my other Salter. I don't know if he ever talks about it, but I finally finished that like last year, but it needs a lot of editing and reworking. But that one I might actually that I think that one's good enough to send out to different publishers when I finish it. So yeah.
Cool. I look
Anyway,
forward to
I'm
reading.
not a writer like full time. I'm a speech therapist, so I kind of write when I can. But are you a musician full time?
Not yet, though that's the plan.
That's the plan. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Awesome.
So I'm moving to LA in a couple of months,
Oh wow.
and yeah.
There's a bit of I don't know.
Noise, static.
Yeah, it's like yeah, static noise.
There's a fan running in my room because it's pretty hot. I could turn it off. Let's see how that sounds. Give me a moment.
Maybe I'll pause the recording. Pausing the recording. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody.
So, this song I'll be playing is called Where the Paths Lead. And it's one of my earlier songs. This is probably like my third or fourth song. But yeah, that's that. And I think I'll start. Let's see if we can get a better view. Virtual background's cutting it out, but we'll see. Set out on the road today, a six-string in the passenger seat. Ask me where I'm going, I say my destination is where the paths lead. Throw my troubles to the spring breeze, rolling through wildflower fields, whispering sweet nothings to tops of trees, taking me to where the paths lead. On me, yeah, they cast a spell as I serenade them and they blush pink skies. Highway to heaven or stairway to hell, I don't know, but the road sure is paradise. the paths lead, where the paths lead, where the paths lead. Something like that. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thanks.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's got a very bluesy feel to it. Do you like listening to the blues? Are you influenced
Um,
by that?
that's actually my only bluesy song. I'm actually my genre is pop, so most of my other stuff is
Okay.
quite different from this one. This was actually a collaboration with a guitarist, so they put up their guitar riffs online, and I was inspired to come up with this song. It's
Okay.
probably why it's different from most of my other stuff.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say it's got very bluesy feel to it. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I'm sorry, my internet got a little funky, and then my dog joined me, and I got a little distracted. You said, you said that it was a collaboration with another instrumentalist.
Hmm.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah,
they did like,
yeah.
so when you did your little like not the strumming part, but the like more picking part, is that when?
Oh, so yeah, so that's actually there. Yeah, that's
Ah,
actually their riff and not really mine.
oh, cool. That's neat. And was this somebody that you knew prior
Oh
to?
no, all online. All online.
Ah,
I found them online. So there's this platform called Band Lab, and it's great for collaborations. So you can do whatever you want and put it up, and ask people if they'd like to collaborate, and if they like, they can get back to you when you could work on the same project together.
that's really
It's a
cool.
really cool platform.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have, so can we find you online? Do you have your music out
Yeah,
there?
you can find me on SoundCloud and YouTube. I'll put the links in the chat.
Great, yeah.
Okay.
Please do.
So yeah.
That's really cool. Um, well, we have time for more. So if either of you want to share more, Chris, I don't know if you said you had anything else that you brought today or not.
I do. I thought this was going to be our last one.
Yeah, we
So
have one more. We take a break in July and August, so we'll have one more in June. I believe it's the 18th. I think it's the 18th, June 18th, the Saturday. Well, for us it's a Saturday, and I guess it would be the 19th for you. But
Yeah.
oh, good. Um, there's your SoundCloud. Okay. Oh, cool. You have a YouTube channel. Excellent. Yes, I will link that too in our on our page as well, if that's okay with
Thank
you.
you.
I so
Aren't you gonna do anything?
Oh, I don't have anything prepared tonight, so no.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
we usually have so many people that, well, not so many, but enough that it's the hour is you pretty much you can do one or two kind of quick things, and then it's somebody else's turn. So
Yeah, this
I
is
might save this. I
okay.
might save my other piece for next week, next meeting. It's a very summary piece, and I might save it just for that. But I can maybe I can drag something else up here if um Tianti, if you have something else to perform, you can do it while I look for something else here.
Okay, I can do another one. And
Awesome.
this is what my music is usually like. I'll play something that's more my style. Um, all right, this one's called. Oh wait, let me position the camera. Okay. Tonight everything's just right. Every sequence, skies are clean. Tonight we're not calling it a night. just right. Starry eyes shining bright. Everyone wearing Cheshire Cat smiles. Sip sparkly sophistication and style. Tonight everything's just right. Glittery sequin skies agleam. I mean, look at those clouds. Are they made of cotton candy? Tonight we're not calling it a night. Tonight everything's just right. Glittery sequin skies agleam. Tonight we're not calling it a night. No one's asleep, but everyone's a dream. Tonight, tonight everything's just right. Glittery sequin skies agleam. Tonight we're not calling it a night. No one's asleep, but everyone's a dream. Tonight everything's just right. Glittery sequin skies agleam. Tonight we're not calling it a night. Thank you.
I like the fade out too. That's cool. The live
Thanks.
fade out.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
like doing it. Thank you.
Nice. Fun. That's a fun song.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I like
Thanks.
the
Did you
spoken
do
word.
that fade out with your voice, or did
Yeah.
you do that with an effect? You just
No, it was just the voice and my guitar. I just slowed it down and
pretty good.
softened it.
I thought it was
Thank you.
back. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was sorry I talked over you, Chris, but I was saying I liked the spoken word in the middle too. I mean, like
Too.
the
So
speaking.
this actually, yeah. So this actually came from a couple of prompts. So I attend this songwriting session where we are given prompts, a musical prompt, a prompt about the lyrical subject, and there's another prompt. So we are given three prompts, and one of those prompts was to have a spoken word section in the song. One prompt was to have a key change, which is why you hear both of those. And there were a few other prompts, like you're supposed to mention colors and verbs and a few other things. So I included all of that, and this is what I came up with.
Cool.
But the spoken word and the key change, I wouldn't have otherwise thought of these two aspects had it not been for those prompts.
Have you used that in other songs that you've written since now? Like the
So,
speaking in the middle and
we often do these prompt thing, and I have quite a few songs that came out of those sessions using different prompts. So we also do this themed songwriting thing, like Christopher was talking about, where you pick up a book and you just pick a random word and start from there. So we're given a word and we're supposed to come up with a song based around that. We often do that too. And it's very interesting because we come up with songs that it challenges us, because otherwise, we wouldn't really think on those lines. The
yeah.
other day we had something I'm working on right now is DIY. Like, I had a tough time coming up with a song that had anything to do with DIY, but that was the theme. So yeah.
Well, you're doing it yourself, songwriting career at this point,
There
at
you go.
least. That's really cool. And
Thank you.
I was gonna ask another question. How long do you have then, or how long? So, okay, let's see. In this session, do you spend, how much time do you spend creating the song?
So for the prompts, where we are given like three prompts, it's usually either 20 minutes or 15 minutes or 10 minutes. It depends. Like, we start
Wow.
off with 20 minutes, and then for the next bunch of prompts, we get 15 minutes, and then for the one after that, we get 10 minutes. So it decreases progressively. But no one really comes up with a full song within that span of time. We just come up with ideas, maybe a verse or maybe a verse and a chorus, and then we build it from there.
Okay. Cool. So it really is just motivating you to get it done, get it out
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
and
that's
to not overthink, because
yeah.
creative artists often think over and over and over and over and over again, and we hardly ever get things done. So yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. That's really cool. Well, I'm glad that that's working for you. That and yeah,
Hmm.
very prolific. That's a lot of music. Um, you said 40 plus songs
Yeah,
in
yeah.
like 2 years. I don't know. That's
I intend to get my.
significant.
Yeah, I was thinking of like recording my first album. In fact, I have songs enough that'd be enough for 2 albums.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first step would be to like actually go into a studio and record these properly. And I want to get my first album out before the end of the year.
Awesome.
Love it. I love the goals. That's awesome. Well, cool. I'm so glad that you
Thank you.
found us and are sharing here. And I hope you join us again. And I hope that we have more folks joining us next time. We'll put the push out for like, this is our last one for the year or for the season. So that would be great to have you perform in front of more of our folks. Um, but yeah, Chris, did you have one more that you
I
wanted to?
did. I did. Yeah. I mean, these are. I have three very short ones that are like paragraphs. So they're those little narrative things that I'm gonna read real quick. But I think it's interesting. We always talk about this. There's always like this weird synchronicity. Like my last story was a prompt, and then you wrote your song on that. There's always these weird interconnections when we do these open mics. Like something is always relating really closely. I just think it's awesome. Maybe it's just the artistic mindset, but or the process. But there's always funny little. Remember a couple weeks ago or a couple times ago, like we all had like the same theme. It was really weird. Like we all reading and the songs that other people had written, like it was all like very similar themes all on one night. We all had brought the same thing without a plan. So I just think it's cool. But anyway, um, Sayanti, everyone that usually comes to this, because I've known now I've been doing this for a couple of years, but I had a farm. I used to live on a farm in Oregon, so I used to write a lot of stuff about that farm. So these little three pieces, and I had this amazing horse named Little Bear, who died, but a couple of these are going to be about that too. But I'll go through them pretty quick here. They'll only take a couple minutes, probably 2 minutes to read all of them, maybe 3 minutes. And then none of them are titled, so I'm just going to read three in a row. That sun was tumbling toward the horizon fast, sinking like a ship taking on water, heavy, going down with all hands. It hit the distant trees like a wrecking ball on the downswing, scattering pink and gold light like the bright and sudden powder of exploding plaster and brick across the sky. That sun was the spotlight on a prison yard, breaking free from its fitting on the guard tower, toppling over and crashing down in a burst of blinding brilliance before it extinguished itself and went out with a bang. That old sun went careening over the curve of the earth like a locomotive, veering off the tracks and over a cliff, like a lighthouse crumbling into the sea, like all the nuclear waste in the world being dumped all at once into the depths of the abyss, like the second coming, like redemption. And as it crashed into the horizon, you could see two young hens, both hatched just the summer, one of them pretty and brown, the other all checkered in gray in her gingham Sunday best, skittering around the corner of the barn, their long yellow legs all spidery and lovely and awkward, leaping at the gnats and the dandelions, both of them squawking to one another as they ran, with a flap of a wing, the tilt of a head, the curve of that leg matching the curve of the horizon for just an instant. One delicate toe pointed back at you more beautifully than any dancer. And as the sun sinks like a tired old man onto his sagging mattress, those hens will disappear again around the far edge of the barn, and you'll be glad you witnessed it, and you'll feel the wiser for having been in that spot at that moment in time. Here's the next one. I stood outside in the night. in the moonlight, in the clean, cool air, in the wispy, ankle-deep mist in the round pen in front of Little Bear, reflected in his eyes, first in one and then the other, as he turned his head this way and that, listening to the coyotes barking and yelping, the noise growing nearer, sounding like they were just across the road, first one barking, then two, echoing back and forth to one another. One close and one more distant, the closer one becoming more purposeful, the distant one losing ground, the nearer one becoming unrhythmic, unrelenting, unyielding in his bid to be heard, to deliver his message, barking as I walked Little Bear into the barn to his stall, barking as I scratched Little Bear's neck and watched him eat his grain with blissful purpose, still barking later as I turned out the lights, demanding to be heard, demanding so frantically that he lost all relevance and became part of the background noise, part of the night. It was only much later that I noticed he had stopped barking at some point. I couldn't say when. And the last one. I walked along the gravel drive out to the barn, out behind the round pen and toward the trees, and I stood with Little Bear in his stall. I leaned over the lower door and we looked out at the sky, at the still glowing fields and the silent trees. The sun was behind the barn, creeping away like a defeated crusader, like a prayer, like a promise that the day never meant to keep. Little Bear went from the door to his manger and back to the stall door again, chewing thoughtfully and stopping to listen, his ears twitching intently back and forth. Night fell heavily like a closing curtain over the trees, while the killdeer and the distant peacocks sang out, "Bravo, bravo," in rapturous and astonished voices, and the frogs demanded an encore in their relentless tone. Little Bear chewed his alfalfa, and I watched the gnats under the brim of my hat until it was time to go in. I went to the inner door of the stall, and Little Bear nickered his opinion in a low rumble, and I laughed in return. That's all of them.
I love those. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard chickens described so beautifully before.
Yeah, everything was so vivid and descriptive. Like, it was all playing out right in front of me, and especially those similes that you used. You used quite a few, especially for the first one. It was like really strong and powerful.
I was trying to write as many different descriptions of a sunset as I could, and I wanted to just smash them together. But I like the way, what I really like about that first piece is that it's just these powerful images, the sun, the setting, this and this, and then at the end, the sun is setting like an old man sagging onto his mattress. It's just tired at the end. There's something to me that's very satisfying about that. It's just strong, 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 and then it's tired and the day is over. So I did like the way that one ended. And honestly, I had so many chickens at that farm. I mean, I think we had like 100 chickens at some point, but and a lot of them are annoying, but they can be very beautiful, and some of them can be very sweet. I had one little chick. What was that? Little darling, I named her. This little hen. She used to sit on my shoulder, and like I could walk around the barn and stuff, and she would just sit, just hunch there. So some of them are very sweet. Some of them are incredibly annoying, but some of them are just beautiful, sweet little creatures. Just so I wanted to capture some of that, and they're just so almost like phantasmagorical, like they just float sometimes, especially like in the shifting light, like they just they're so light on their feet, that it's just, I was trying to capture some of the, thinking of like a painting of a hen, like how you could see it. But anyway, that was that one.
It was good. It was good. I liked it. I appreciate that. Like I said, I don't think I've ever heard hens described that way. So, it's sweet for sure.
Yeah, I really like hearing things about animals and birds and nature in general, so I really like those pieces. You don't get to hear those often, but Most people talk about
Right.
emotions and
Yeah,
deeper
very
things.
commonplace,
You know,
but you
yeah.
try and think of the commonplace in a beautiful way too, you know. And I think that's what I got from living on that farm, just seeing everyday things in kind of a
Mm,
different, beautiful way. So, but I
yeah.
mean, you have one bird. Do you have more birds? Have you always had a bird? Like, are you just interested in birds? Is it yours even, or is it somebody
I
else's?
know it's not really mine. There's this tree right outside my window, and it just perches there and screams its lungs out.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
There all the time. Okay.
Oh. Here, I was thinking it was like your pet bird. No.
Cage bird.
Nah,
Yeah.
not really.
Nope. It's inspired by your music, maybe. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
How interesting. Um, Chris, do you think you're going to compile those pieces into a book of short stories or anything like that? Or create
I
more?
would like to. Yeah, and in fact, I was looking for something else to read tonight, and I can't find it anywhere on my computer, and I'm panicking because I know there's a couple of other things that they have to be on here somewhere. And with all the moving that I've done, I'm like, it has to be on this hard drive, or I'm gonna like freak out because there's a couple of things that I don't know where they are if they're not on here. So I was looking for them before I got logged on tonight. I can't find them, but if I can find them by next time, I will read one of them. So yes, I found a whole bunch of things that I'm going to try and copy and paste into a single document at least to keep, because I can't, things have a way you lose track of things over time, and I don't want to lose some of these things. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I hope you find them.
yeah, you do.
Hopefully they're somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to call it an evening for us. And thank you all for both of you for being here. And I hope that you will come back next month for
Yeah, absolutely. So, could you put information about these sessions in the chat? I'm not sure where I found this group, and I
yeah.
don't want to like lose it.
Okay. I'm going to end our recording. So thank you, YouTube people. Or yes, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week.